Hi, I'm Paul, and in this video I'm going to show you how to replace the cord locks and how to record an applause top down bottom up with the standard cord locks. First, we just need to remove all of the old cord and the cord locks from the head rail. So I'm going to hold on to the head rail and just start to rock this off. I may need to open up the cord lock if there's still cord in there. We can remove the old cord lock. Now remember, I do want to replace these cord locks just as a best practice. There is an aesthetic cover here. So I want to go ahead and remove this aesthetic cover. I'll start on the front here and just bring it straight out and rock it off of the back here from the bottom. And I'll go ahead and hang on to these aesthetic covers and save those for my new cord locks. All right, so let's go ahead and remove the head rail. I'll just slide this head rail right off of the gasket filler strip here at the top. As I'm removing everything, let's just keep it in the same orientation so it's easier to put everything back together. Go ahead and remove cord from the head rail filler strip. I also want to check the condition of these and replace them as well. And I can go ahead and bring in a new one and just push that firmly into place. And I'll do that for all of these across the width of the shade. Now let's go to my middle rail and my bottom rail. We still have to remove this old cord. You can see I have a pocket and ferrule here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull that out and remove that cord. And now I'll flip it over to its bottom. And what I want to do is remove all of the old cord and all of the old ferrules from the shade. All right, so my next step now is I'm going to go ahead and remove the end cap. And I want to be careful when I do this. I don't want to mar any of the aluminum rail material at all. And go ahead and set aside the end cap. I'll just remove the one. That allows me to slide away the middle rail. So now we're ready to begin to record the shade. So I want to begin with the replacement cord for the middle rail, for the top-down function of the shade. So what I'll want to do is cut the proper length of my 0.9 millimeter ultra wear cord. In this case, 4 lengths of cord. I have 2 cord routes through the shade, and this is top down, bottom up. This is a bit smaller shade, so I'm going to want the length of cord to equal the width, and then I want another length of cord to mimic the length. So I may take a look. This is 27 in height, which also matches the width, so I can just match that there as well. And I'm going to go ahead and just give myself a little bit of extra, maybe 12 to 15 inches, and cut that cord. And I'm just going to repeat this process for every single lift cord. All right, so I have my 4 lengths of cord, and I'm going to go ahead and start with the top-down cord for my shade. So I need the middle rail and my fabric stack. The cord route through the fabric is going to line up the left route on the shade. The one to the right here is going to be for my ferrule for the middle rail cord. I'm going to take my fabric insert, and I can drop this cord right through the cord guide. Continue through there. I'm going to then feed the cord through the left pocket of the middle rail, pull it right through the bottom, and then I want to bring it back up through that right side pocket and just leave myself a few inches of cord here. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the new ferrule here. I can break this off of the pocket and ferrule assembly. That notch indicates it is the bottom of the ferrule. So take the cord and feed it through the top of the ferrule. We'll go straight through. And then I'm going to loop it around and feed it through the top again. And I'm going to pull that through, and I'll just leave myself 3 inches of cord, and I'll go ahead and cinch that down around the ferrule, making sure that the loop around the ferrule is seated into that little notch right there. I'm going to gently set that into place, and I'll go ahead and just lay this cord off to the right side, since this is going to be operated as a right control. And now I'm going to repeat the process for the other cord route. So now I've replaced the lift cord for the top-down feature, and I'm going to bring both lift cords and just make sure that they're left off to the right here for now. So now I'm going to go ahead and reattach the top-down rail or the middle rail back to my fabric stack. And I've kept everything in alignment. I haven't flipped any rails end for end. So I'll go ahead and just slide all this down. And what I want to do is grab the top cell of the fabric. You can see the filler strip inside here. And I want to make sure that it's just that top cell is just going to ride into these lower channels here in the middle rail. Slide that back into place. I can go ahead and replace the end cap for the middle rail, making sure that it's orientated correctly. I can see these longer tabs here. In this case here, this is considered the bottom of the end cap, but since the rail is flipped over, I need to flip the end cap as well. And I'm going to go ahead and insert that, starting with those longer tabs. And it may push into place, or I may need to tap that into place a little bit. My next step is to now record the bottom up cord. So I have my 2 remaining pieces of cord here. And for this, what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring in my lacing tool. What I want to do is go ahead and feed my lacing tool through the guide of the filler strip. Now I'm going to also feed it right through the pocket that marries up with the cord route through the fabric. I'm going to go ahead and set this right on top here. And as I'm pushing that through, I may need to twist a little bit. Ultimately, I want it to come right out through the pocket in the bottom rail. I'm going to lace that cord through the needle and go ahead and just pull it all through. Before I go any further, I am going to go ahead and take the end of the cord that will be at the bottom, and I'm going to feed that cord through. Go ahead and pull it through and just leave a few extra inches of cord. And I'll cinch that loop down into that notch. Now I'm going to pull the remaining cord through enough so that I can gently seat that ferrule into the pocket. Now let's repeat the process on the other side. So now I've recorded the shade with both sets of cords for the top-down feature and the bottom-up feature. So I've brought the cords for the top-down control over to the right-hand side. This is the front of the shade facing me. I have the right side control and my top-down cords. I may choose to go ahead and put a small piece of tape right there just to hold those in place. I now have my 2 remaining cords, which are operating the bottom rail, and I'll route those off to the left-hand side. Now we're ready to bring the head rail back to the filler strip of the shade. I'm going to start by just getting my tape out of the way. I'm just going to lift the fabric gasket away. You can see my fabric gasket here. And I'm going to slide that into this bottom channel area of the head rail. We'll just go ahead and set that in, making sure that I'm not pinching or grabbing any of the other cells in the gasket here. And it should slide this easily. I'll continue to slide this across over the cord guides. I'm going to remove that tape and just bring my head rail back in about that far. Now we're ready to bring in our new cord locks. I can go ahead and snap that back on in reverse. So I'll start on the back here and just snap that into place. I can hear that snap, and I'm going to bring it around. I can kind of stretch the front around. And what I want to do is make sure that the cord lock cover has engaged. And as we look here on the bottom side back, I can see these 2 tabs right here that are snapped into place and holding it against this ridge of the cord lock. So everything's in there nice and tight, and we'll do that same process on the front, and everything's looking really good here as well. Let's take a look at this cord lock here. This is in the locked position, and you can see the cord lock swivels to the inside. And inside here is a bail that the cord will need to pass through. I'll use my lacing tool and go through that cord lock bail, and I'll go all the way through right out the top. I'll then take the ends of my 2 cords that are exiting out of the head rail and just feed those through the lacing tool, and I'm going to pull all this cord through. I want to check the path of the cord exiting the head rail and going into the cord lock, and just make sure that this isn't getting twisted around each other. I can go ahead and pull this through, and we can see this guide feature right here that the cords need to pass underneath. And I want to make sure that the cord is fed underneath this guide over the stainless steel insert, out through the body of the cord lock, and it comes out through the bail and against the lock there. So now I want to go ahead and slide this into place, and as I'm sliding on the cord lock, I want to make sure I see about an inch, just a little more than an inch of fabric right there. And I can start sliding this in, making sure that everything is lining up here, and I'm going to seat that fully, making sure that the fabric is all the way against the edge of the cover of the headrail lock. And now I'll repeat the same process on the right-hand cord lock. I'm now ready to bring back in the child-safe cord connectors. If I need to replace these at all, the leader cord and the tassel easily remove from the connector, and I just want to make sure that that's seated right in there. These are not universal halves, they are very specific to lock together. I'm now going to take my lift cord here. I'll feed that through the connector, and I'm just going to tie a double over knot. And I'm making sure that that knot is good and tight and that washer isn't slipping at all. And I can go ahead and just trim away, leaving about 1/4 inch of a tail there. Now as I'm adding the cord back to the child-safe cord connectors, I want to keep in mind that I haven't set the finished length yet. I have plenty of extra lift cord, so it doesn't matter at this point about tying these knots evenly. Make sure that that knot is seated tightly. And now I can go ahead and just snap these together. They just line right up. I'm going to make sure that the washers, the cord, the crimp, and the decorative pull cord aren't in the way at all. And they should just seat together tightly all the way around. All right, so now I have the shade hanging, so now it's time to set the final length for my shade and to make sure that both moving rails operate in a level fashion. Now I already checked the tag and I noticed that the finished length for this shade is going to be 27 inches. I'm going to start with the bottom rail, which, as we recall, is operated by the left-hand control here. And I want to go ahead and just fully lower this shade as far as it can go. So now I have the shade fully lowered. The fabric won't allow it to go any further, and you can see I have plenty of extra cord here, which is fine. I'd rather have extra cord than not enough. I'll go ahead and at the bottom rail, I'm going to pull on the cord, release the ferrule, and just pull that extra cord out from the bottom rail. And what I want to do is make sure that the safety connector is seated fully against the cord lock. So now with my extra cord here at the bottom rail, I can simply just take the ferrule, and if I loosen that a little bit, I'm just going to pull all this extra cord just to get it near the bottom rail. Whatever I do to one side, I'll just repeat the same process on the next side. All right, now let's go ahead and set the finished length. The finished length for my shade is 27 inches. I'm going to hang my tape measure. Even with the cord route, we'll go ahead and start here on the left-hand side. My finished length is 27 inches. I'm going to slide that ferrule up a little bit. Now let's come over here to the right-hand side, and I'm going to raise this cord as well. Now what I want to keep in mind here is as I'm pulling this cord through the ferrule, I want to pull that loop out a little bit so I'm not sawing the cord into the ferrule. So there I've set the cord, and I'm just going to gently set it into the pocket. I won't push it in there all the way just yet. Let's come back to this side and repeat that process here. So I've set the length on this ferrule here, and we'll seat that into the pocket right there at 27 inches. So now I'll just check. I'm going to hold that bottom rail level, not tilted up or tilted down, making sure that's sitting pretty good right at 27 inches. And I'll check this side as well. So let's go ahead and push the ferrules into the pocket, making sure that they're fully seated. So now that my bottom rail is set, I'll just go ahead and check the operation, making sure that the bottom rail is raising and lowering in a level fashion. Now let's go ahead and set the middle rail. What I'll want to do is come over here to the right-hand side, and with the bottom rail fully lowered at its set length, let's go ahead and lower the middle rail and just let it rest evenly right here against the bottom rail and the fabric stack. We can see that I have a lot of extra cord here, so we'll go ahead and remove that excess cord by pulling the ferrules out of the pockets on the middle rail. I'm going to go ahead and pull that cord out from the middle rail. So now with all the cord pulled out through the middle rail here, I can see here that the cord connector is up against the cord lock. For a top-down control, I want the cord connector to be at maybe about 1/4 of an inch away from the cord lock. So we'll just pull that out a little bit, leaving a little bit of space there. And I'll come back here to my middle rail. Everything is hanging straight and level because I've already set the bottom rail. So let's go ahead and tighten up the remaining cord on the ferrule for the middle rail. I'm going to pull all that extra cord through. So as I'm pulling the extra cord through, I have my loop of cord here. I can pulling that against the pocket and go ahead and just seat that ferrule into the pocket. I won't fully press it in just yet, but just get it started. And now I'll repeat the same process on the left-hand side. So now I have the ferrules partially seated into the pockets on the middle rail. I want to go ahead and just check the operation. Maybe do a visual check here to make sure that this middle rail is raising level and seating against the head rail. I want to go ahead and double check for level then by partially lowering the middle rail. And I'll just check here. We'll call that 15 inches. And I can see here, this side is about 15 1/8. It's just a touch lower. So let's go ahead and I can just, if I grasp the cord exiting the middle rail, and I'll just give a little pull on it here, just to stretch that out slightly. Now I'll seat the ferrules into the pockets, both in the middle rail and the bottom rail. I've set my length, and I've checked for level. My last step now is just to remove some of this excess cord. I'd like to leave about 4 to 5 inches of cord for any future adjustment. And we'll go ahead and raise the middle rail, lock that, and I'll raise the bottom rail. Again, making sure that cord lock is working as it should. And that's taking a look at replacing the cord locks and recording an applause top-down, bottom-up shade.